everybody. 12:15. Hope you got your seatbelt on, and let's get started with the Copilot Show. For those of you who don't know, this series is designed to talk about, AI in the real world. That includes Copilot, that includes different industries, and really how we're transforming our individual businesses. And if there's something that you're doing and you want to be a speaker, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to have you and help. This is all about sharing with everybody, right? So today's episode, I have my special guest star, Candyce. Hi, Candyce. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And Candyce will be presenting, it's a long topic. It's called Note-Taking to Follow Up to Thought Leadership Using AI, Sales, and Marketing Without Losing the Human Touch. And knowing Candyce, it's all about the last 4 words and not losing the human touch. And I'm hoping that today she'll be able to talk to you guys about that as well. This is for you guys. We built this seminar based on conversations and things happening in AI. All these stories are real world, and really there are no experts today, right? So every comment, feedback that you guys provide, please let us know in the window. Come off mute. We got open mic as well. Happy to talk through, but it's about learning together. So thank you for joining again this week. And you guys know me, but I'll introduce myself again. Chris Cognetta, CTIO here, and one of the founders at congruentX. Recently minted Azure AI MVP, as well as the Dynamics MVP. Our focus is on getting CRM right, and you can learn more about us from the website. And without further introduction, Candyce, can we introduce you?
Sure. Hey, everybody, I'm Candyce Edelen, and I have a long background in being a business founder, and I co-founded or founded 5 different companies. As Chris knows, it's an illness that's not curable, being an entrepreneur. And so in 2007, I founded Propel Growth, and we really focused heavily on helping companies with their go-to-market strategy in the fintech space. And then in 2018, we made a decision to shift our markets toward commercial real estate. And I hadn't done an outbound sales call in like 10 years. And so I had to really learn how to sell again. And I started using LinkedIn to do that back in 2018, and just found that a human approach on LinkedIn just really, really worked to engage people and get people to take meetings so well that I booked 125 meetings in 6 months. So wow. That's my teach now. I know, is that crazy? And while running a business at the same time, I wasn't doing full-time sales. So
and she's hinting in her conversation here about AI and making phone calls. We're gonna get there, I promise.
Oh my gosh, please don't use AI to send me an email. You will just make me angry. Now everybody.
Hey, thank you as always for joining us and willing to get back to the community. And so let's hop right in, right? So obviously the big things that stand out to me in the conversation is the human touch, right? And I know you mentioned LinkedIn, so let's just talk a little bit about the philosophies around LinkedIn outreach and how you're doing that today, and some pointers for us on the tools and capabilities, and what do you recommend from that aspect?
So I tried using automation pre-AI on LinkedIn, and that's what really convinced me that you can't automate a relationship. You can't outsource a relationship. If you want to have a relationship with someone and build trust, causing them to know you and like you and trust you, which is absolutely necessary for sales, you have to be able to have a human relationship with them. But that doesn't mean that AI can't facilitate that process. You just can't put the AI between you and the other person. You wouldn't send a robot to a conference to mimic you or to pretend to be you. And so I don't think you should use it for AI. But for note-taking, I use it all the time. Every day when I have meetings, I have my AI note taker join the meeting, take notes, and I use that really heavily now to go back and take a look at what did we agree to do. I am even using it recently, Chris. I took a free course from a guy named Nate Nasrallah, who talks about creating a business case that you can collaborate with the customer on. And he sells an AI tool called Fluent, Fluint, that does the call recording and then produces this. I didn't use his tool, but he provides some free templates. So I grabbed his template and used my own AI tools to produce a draft of a one-page business case based on 2 recorded transcripts that I had with meetings with that client. Was able to then share that document with the client, and we are I just called it a straw man, and we're going back and forth and collaborating because I really want them to own the document. So that's one example of using AI in the sales process without losing the human touch. You know, it's very, very human because we're like sitting there collaborating on it, but we've had multiple people in the buying committee join that document. They ask for permission, and it's just been really game changing. And I just started doing this in the last 3 weeks.
No, that's an awesome tip. And, you know, if you guys are like me, your inbox is flooded with all kinds of AI attempts. Hey, I'm following up. I always enjoy the person who tries to, how is your day today? I started to like keep track now of the styles of the different AIs, you know, like whether I'm a partner or I really enjoyed your website, or you're trying to pull out some personal information to make it look like it's not a bot, right? And as we know, that human experience and that touch is how you're going to get involved in having that conversation. And just because you're using these tools to help keep on track or take notes, as Candyce is talking about, you really don't want to use them in the establishment of that relationship, right? That is, it's definitely losing that human touch. And while we see more and more of the bots that can automate the process, act like a salesperson, I think it's all back to AI responsibility, and that you're not going to replace the person in the conversation, in the relationship. And that's key to some of the selling capabilities. So I totally agree with you on that as well. Now, I know you mentioned a couple of different tools, and there's including the one from congruentX Dialogue Copilot that do all of these recordings and note taking and those kind of things. And this is just the horizon, right, of the level of these tools. This is like level 1. I wouldn't even call it level 1. I'm going to call it level 0, because it's no different. If you had a tape recorder back in the day, I know some of you guys may be dating you with cassette tape recordings and those kind of things, but if you had one, then you could have recorded the call just like you record calls today. The difference is that you're not sitting down and typing it all down. It's typing it for you, right? It really didn't change that much, but it's the summary capabilities is where that level 1 stuff is coming in, and showing you I'm able to summarize and understand context of a conversation, understand personalities of a conversation, right? Pulling those things out is how some of these tools are starting to help us in our everyday work and go through that. So I know we talked about, you know, reaching out, sales calls, that kind of stuff. What about on the actual, when you're trying to make like thought leadership on a customer call? Do you have some examples on, you know, are you using AI to do that? Is there something that, a pattern, or is that the template that you're discussing, is that something that you would use to do that?
So I'm going to take that and address it 2 different ways. And also, I know there was a question asked about AI tools for note takers, and Chris's company offers one of those. And so there's a lot of other products out there, but definitely take a look at Dialogue Prime and what congruentX offers, because it's much more purpose built for sales. From the perspective of what I'm doing, one thing that I'm noticing is that people are trying to use AI to do outreach, thinking that it's going to be smarter than the templated, bot-driven stuff that a lot of people are doing today. What I'm noticing, though, is not only is it not smarter, it's mimicking the techniques and practices that don't work, because it can't come up with something new and novel, and it gets confused. I have received multiple sales emails where the AI has gotten confused between who's the customer and who's the prospect. I mean, the prospect and who's the seller, and they're offering me my own product. So they're like, Candace, I think you would be really interested in talking about LinkedIn social selling training. And I'm like, what? That's what, and they'll use like messaging that's coming off of my website or my LinkedIn post. So it's really, really not wise to use it, because you can't monitor what it's doing. If you're sending 1,000 emails, you're not going to go look at 1,000 emails and see exactly what it's doing across those emails. So you might spot check a couple and it looks fine, but it's not fine to your customer.
Yeah, and there's another thing called AI hallucination, if you're not familiar
Yes.
with this. And this is how AI got a bad name in the beginning, right? Interacting with AI all starts with your prompt engineering skills, right? How well you write the prompt, how well the prompt defines the behavior. And if you do things that are creative in asking to the AI, then you're opening up the can of worms for it to do a lot more than you may want. A great example of this.
On your pizza.
Yeah, a great example of this is if you went out to like a chat GPT and said, hey, tell me about Bob Cottonmouth, the inventor of the sewing machine, and provide 4 references on biography.com. First of all, the person doesn't exist. It will go off and create a biography with details, what school they went to, what patents they got, references to biography.com, because you told it to do that.
And right? It'll make up links for you too.
It will. So the hallucinations are not just in those prompts, but they're also in these tools, right? Yes. So when you use these tools and you're prompting and asking it to do something on your behalf, again, that's why I love how Microsoft Copilot name was the co-pilot to what you're doing, meaning it helped you, it assisted you, it didn't replace you. These other tools are saying, well, wait a second, I don't need that salesperson. I'm going to go do the 1,000 phone calls that Candace was talking about, but you do not know if inside of any of those emails did it hallucinate or not without checking every single one. So again, there's a balance there for sure, but that's why 100%. I think hallucination is a problem with some of this as well.
Yeah. So going back to prepping for a call, for example, or prepping for outreach, there are some interesting tools out there to do that, though. One of my favorites is, and I don't know if it stopped working for a little while, but I'm just checking it now. Search with Bing. So if you are in Sales Navigator and you pull up a particular person's profile, there's a link called Search on Bing. And that can help you to quickly identify that person. It used to give a summary, which it doesn't seem to be doing that anymore, which is kind of a bummer because that was really helpful. But I think that tools will probably get better at this. Copy.ai has a really interesting tool where you can have it go research a company. You can train it with your company's information, and then they do these workflows. So it's a series of prompts where once you've trained it with what you offer and what your value proposition is and the kind of customers you're looking for and the kind of people, buyer personas that you would be targeting, then you can give it a URL of a company. And this works best with public companies. It's not so good with smaller private companies.
Right. I was going to say that. Yeah. If you're not a big company, it won't know you. If you don't show up in, what are some of the tools, Candace, like Apollo or Zoom Info, if you're not listed there, then these tools, it won't work because it doesn't know who you are. Right.
Yeah. And then also with the hallucinations, I think Scott May would be very happy to hear that he was promoted to CEO of Velocio, according to copy.ai, because everything that it based everything on was Scott May as CEO. And he, for those of you who don't know, Scott May is a wonderful person, super smart, but not the CEO of Velocio. So it's not perfect, but it did give me, like, I had to do a research on Velocio, and it gave me some really interesting topics that people at Velocio would be interested in probably discussing, and conversation things, and it kind of created a point of view of, it did like a search of all of the open job openings for Velocio, and made suggestions about some of the problems they might be struggling with that are related to what I do. So I think that that can be pretty interesting use case. It gets expensive with copy.ai because of the way that they handle credits, but I have a
Right.
feeling that this type of functionality is going to become more widely available, and it's a very fascinating use case that I think is a great way to open up conversations and engage people in meaningful dialogue.
Yeah, some of this is also related to what's called intent data. So if
Yeah.
you don't know, our wonderful search engine friends that are all around, including our LinkedIn's and all of that, sell intent data, which is what are you trying to do? So if I'm out trying to purchase a CRM system, or I'm looking for an AI tool, or I'm looking for particular businesses in X, it'll put a mark next to my name and say Chris Cognetta has intent to buy this. And then they're surfacing that information in their tools to do the things that Candyce is talking about. So you can look at a company and understand, well, hey, the last time we looked at Dairy Queen, they're trying to solve their point of sale system, right? And it'll show who are the people that we're searching for it as well. So these are how some of these models are pulling together the data and the understanding from surfacing around. And it's not just LinkedIn and searches in Google, it's even social media posts, right? So it's pulling that whole thing together to give you a better visibility of that client. And really, I know Candyce, when she teaches her class, there's no excuse not to research the person and the company and do all the detail. But now it's going to be like where it's at your fingertips. Where if you can think about, like in the Copilot pane on Outlook on the right hand side, you'd see everything about this company as they came in as a lead to your organization. Here's, oh yeah, there was 6 people searching for this, and you can automatically craft your messaging to help send that to them and get a better chance of close, or at least an engagement is really what's happening, right? So
I
even
would remove the
personalization
word
is moving up.
automatically. Remove the word automatically from that.
For sure.
Use that insight to craft that message.
Yep.
Absolutely. But if you automate that, you're gonna be in a very
Yeah.
awkward
Well,
situation.
automate to get the information, not to respond out, right? So
Yes,
like I think
exactly.
Phil was saying in the chat here, I hate psychological guilt emails, and we all do, right? Actually, there's some detectors that are been in showing up in the Outlook and Salesforce ecosystems, and soon to be in the HubSpots of the world and all of that, that are looking for that type of similar content and building libraries of senders. It's like another spam 4.0, right? How do I stop people from doing this? And what can I detect that's written by AI instead of something that's just a normal conversation happening? The same type of blockers are going to be available for your enterprise as well. So it won't be long
Getting
before
integrated
those
in
things are going to
email.
get shut down. Yeah. So if
Yeah,
you're starting to write a lot of things with AI and that's great, but certainly there'll be some changes coming. I know
yeah.
you talked about your strategic approaches and how you do these things right with AI, and you mentioned some cool tools there. But in your day in a life of Candyce, right? Um, you know, what do you find that you're doing both in the sales side and the marketing side that we can give back to the people on the call here that may help them increase their sales, for example, or their marketing outreach? You have any tips there that you would share?
Sure. Some of the game-changing things that we're finding is back to those call recordings, and it's just such a gold mine of information. So I'll take a conversation that I've had with a prospect, grab the transcript of that, run it through AI to find the questions that that prospect asked me and what my answer was for that. Now I can turn that into content. So I'll even have AI draft me the initial piece, and like a single conversation, a 45-minute conversation with somebody, I could come away with probably 4 or 5 different blog articles and LinkedIn articles. Now I don't let AI completely write it, but because I'm feeding it content that's voice specific, that's me speaking, and I'm asking it to write and mimic my voice, and I've trained the AI tool with our brand voice documents, then I can get something that's a little closer to polished, and then I'll go through and try to rewrite the whole thing, honestly, but it will take me way less time. And the reason I rewrite the whole thing is I'm trying to de-AIze it, so that if there are, like what Chris is talking about, AI detection out there, I would prefer that not to set off those. But also I'm noticing, so recently one of our accelerator members, she's brand new, and we talk a lot about a commenting strategy on LinkedIn and how valuable that is for engaging a target audience. And she dropped a comment on a particular person's post, and that person replied to the comment, which you should always reply when people comment. But the reply came across as kind of cold and really just didn't respond to the comment that she had dropped. It reiterated the post. And our member kind of came back to me going, man, I feel like she didn't like the fact that I dropped that comment, and it makes me nervous about commenting on her stuff again, which is the last thing you want people to think about you, because every comment is gold for you in raising your lift on LinkedIn. So I went and looked at it, and a couple of our other accelerator members looked at it. And one of our other accelerator members, her name's Kimberly Volbrecht, detected, she's like, I think that this original poster is using AI to respond to all the comments.
Nice.
And it just came across as cold and vacant of emotion, vacant of humanity, even though there wasn't anything in it that was specifically antagonistic or anything. It just left that feeling with the other person. That is the last thing you want your content to do, is leave people with a feeling of just being put off or being not wanted or whatever. So de-AIzing things is not just for the algorithms, it's for the humans, because we do emotionally detect that.
Yeah, and this has been happening a while. This started on Twitter, right? With autoresponders and content generators, and it's just a new horizon of that. Claudia asked, is there an example? And I'll just share a quick email in the window, Claudia, of after a call, I get the details, I get who was on the call, how long the call was for, a summary of the call, what it was about, the pain points from the call, and any action items due after the call. And that's something that's powered by our Dialogue Copilot system. And those are all tunable based on the context. And what I mean by context is, if I'm on a sales call, then maybe it's about budget and timeline and critical pain points. If I'm on a PM call, it may be around project milestones and the task or slipping gates or engagement that I want to have. And I think what Candyce was showing you is the poor man's version of how to do what we do in Dialogue Copilot. And really, the conversation that she's taking the transcript and uploading it as a document to like ChatGPT. If you haven't done this, this is so that you can give context to ChatGPT so it understands what was the conversation. Then you can ask it questions about the conversation. So in Dialogue Copilot, we do this automatically for you. We have your conversation there, and we have this thing called Ask GPT, where we've got some canned questions like, will I win the deal? Or was the customer engaged, right? How can I get better at this deal? And you can ask it questions around that deal to get back responses. And then you may have forgotten something on the phone call. So you can actually ask it a question, right? Like, how many users did they say, or how many licenses were there? So it's way more than just a search. It's actually interpretive, so much that it can say things like, was the customer engaged in this conversation? And if you're having a conversation and you're just talking that one way and the customer doesn't say anything the whole entire time in the sales call, chances are either you lost them, you missed the mark, or they're not interested, right? But if they're engaging and saying, well, how can I do this? Or how can I do that? That now says that level of engagement has gone up. It's another signal to the system that that's a real deal. And that's how all these tools are changing not only the human touch, but how we can take things that we're using every day, like transcriptions and phone things. I put some comments in there about even my Samsung has the ability to take a message now and record it and use some with that transcript. But you can do all these things for free. You don't have to buy tool sets. Or if you're an enterprise, you can buy a tool like Dialogue Copilot that not only takes this information, but then we take it and we update your CRM. We automatically add your notes, and we help your sales team stay focused on new deals and revenue versus having to maintain and do CRM. Claudia, go ahead. Sure.
Chris, can it also like set like your to-dos and what next steps you need to take in your CRM so that you cannot forget? That's one of the biggest things that I have when I have a ton of meetings going on is I forget what my follow-up steps are.
Yeah.
And if I like one meeting after another all day, like going back is challenging.
It is absolutely doing that as well. So action items it takes out, it updates the account, updates the contact, can follow up. Another one of my personal favorites is the ability to execute a flow after that phone call. So let's say I make a phone call and I know it's the first call, but now I want to move my opportunity stage because I know that it's no longer qualify. I'm in discovery now. I don't want the salesperson to have to do that, but just by saying that you had that qualifying call, it'll move the flow automatically. So there's cool. Thousands of features. And we probably will do a Dialogue Copilot, maybe have you back, Candice, and go through some of the capabilities there and how it's helping sales and marketing. But I know we're almost at time. Wanted to give a few moments for anybody online to ask any questions. And again, thank you, Claudia, for adding more content in here as well. Appreciate the interaction on what's going on. Looks like Melissa had come off mute. No? Okay. Anybody have any questions for Candice on some of the tools? Yes, Dan. You're on mute, sir.
All right, sorry.
There you go.
Hey, Dan.
Thanks for joining us. How are you? So I wondered if you can share in the chat the link to signing up for the course, because I'd like to sign up for the course.
Awesome.
For which course?
The Propel Growth, let's see, I think it's the not the AI one, just the general one.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you a link to our website, and then I have multiple courses on there, so you can see which one you're looking for.
Thanks. And Dan, you'll be able to test Candice's human interaction touchpoint follow-up on how that works.
Exactly.
Excellent.
By the way, we are running a posting challenge again in September. If anybody's interested in getting good at LinkedIn, attracting an audience, we're going to do a 30-day posting challenge.
I know everyone thinks they know LinkedIn. Trust me, you don't know LinkedIn. Until you go through Candice's class, then you'll understand LinkedIn and how things that you should do and you should not do, like answering responses and things like that. Those are some really cool tips that have really helped us scale our business as well. So highly recommended that. But again, hey, it's 12:45. We're at time. Wanted to thank everybody again for coming to the session. Hope you found it informative. You can find more about Candice's company at propelgrowth.com. You can find more about Dialogue Copilot and summarization at dialoguecopilot.com. And as always, we're always available for additional meetings you'd like to have or different content topics. Reach out to us, send us an email, and please don't forget to share it with all your audiences. The bigger that we can get, the more we can do. So thanks, everybody. And thank you, Candice, for coming. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for having me. I just threw my LinkedIn link there too. If somebody wants to connect with me, please do.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Have a great
Thanks,
afternoon.
everybody. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sasha.